I had dialed Max's number with excitement bubbling in my chest, hoping today he would finally give me a wedding date. Instead, before I could even put the phone to my ear, Lena glanced up from her seat at my dining table, crossed one leg over the other, and said with a strangely triumphant smile, "We already got married yesterday, Renata." It was intimate. Only people who truly mattered were invited. Those words didn't just sting, they sliced through me like a cold blade. Only people who mattered. I stood there frozen, one hand still curled around the phone as if I had forgotten how to move. My own son was sitting a few feet away, pretending to scroll through his phone, refusing to look at me. Lena, meanwhile, sank deeper into the very armchair I had bought for them last spring when she complained their apartment looked depressing. My pale blue dress, the one I had bought especially for their wedding, was still hanging in my closet with its tags untouched. I had spent weeks imagining myself at Max's side, making memories, laughing with his new family, celebrating love. I'd even told my sister Diana I was finally going to witness my son start his own life. But apparently, I didn't matter. 3 years. 3 years of paying their rent every month, making sure their fridge was never empty, fixing every little crisis, covering skipped bills, forgotten fees, and unexpected emergencies. Sometimes I would skip my own doctor's appointments or postpone buying my medications just so they never felt the burden of adulthood. And yet, I was not special enough for my son's wedding. "You should have seen the ceremony," Lena added casually, picking at her nails as if discussing the weather. "It was perfect. My family cried. Max's bachelor party friends were hilarious. We danced all night. My heart dropped. Her family. Her friends. Everyone but the woman who had silently carried both of them for years." I tried to swallow the ache rising in my throat. "Max," I whispered, "is this true? You got married without telling me?" His jaw tightened. He didn't even lift his eyes. "Mom, it was last minute. Really small. You wouldn't have enjoyed it." Wouldn't have enjoyed it? I had planned a $1,000 gift envelope for them. I had cleaned my entire house, expecting to host a small celebration afterward. I had even practiced a little speech for the toast. But none of that mattered, because I wasn't special people. The worst part? The photos I wasn't supposed to see. I saw them that very night on social media because Lena's cousin tagged her in a video. Their wedding wasn't small at all, it was a full event. A decorated garden. A catered dinner. Flowers. Music. Champagne. All paid partly with the money I had given Lena last month for a dress fitting. I didn't know that money was helping pay for her actual wedding dress, the same dress she wore while excluding me. I cried quietly that night. I didn't shout. I didn't complain. I simply let the humiliation seep through me like poison. A week passed without a single apology. Then, on the 7th day, I received a call from Lena. Her voice wasn't smug anymore, it was shaky. "Renata, the rent is past due. The landlord is threatening to throw us out. You forgot to send the transfer this month." Forgot? No. I remembered everything, including the words she used to make me feel disposable. I inhaled slowly. "Lena," I said, "I told myself I would only help people who treat me like I matter. Who treat me like special people." Silence. A stunned silence that tasted like long-awaited justice. But I knew this was just the beginning. What I didn't know yet was that my refusal would ignite something far darker, a scheme that would turn my own son into my greatest threat. After I ended the call with Lena, I expected a storm, but not the kind that arrived. For the first time in years, my phone stayed quiet the entire evening. No frantic texts, no guilt-tripping voice notes, no "we're counting on you, Mom" messages from Max. I wondered if they were too shocked to respond or if they were busy plotting their next move. The quiet should have soothed me. Instead, it felt like the calm before something catastrophic. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, feeling both proud and terrified. proud that I had finally drawn a boundary, terrified of how they would react now that the money faucet had been turned off. I made myself breakfast, a simple one, and for the first time, I didn't calculate in my head how much I could save by skipping a proper meal. I toasted a slice of bread, opened a small jar of jam I had been saving for months, and took a long, slow sip of my coffee. A strange thought crossed my mind. This is what it feels like to live for myself. But the peace didn't last long. At 10:42 a.m., my front door opened. Not knocked, opened. With my spare key. Lena came in first, wearing oversized sunglasses as if she were a celebrity avoiding paparazzi. Max trailed behind her, looking nervous but determined. "Mom," he called out, "we need to talk." I stood my ground in the kitchen, still holding my mug. "You don't walk into my house without knocking." Lena took her sunglasses off, revealing puffy eyes, not from crying, but from anger. "Renata, please don't make this harder than it needs to be. The rent is overdue. The landlord is threatening legal action. Max is stressed. I'm stressed. You've never failed us like this." The entitlement in her tone hit me harder than the wedding exclusion. Max leaned against the counter as if he lived there. "Mom, you know we're tight on money. Why would you suddenly stop helping us?" "Because I realized something," I replied softly. "You two only come to me when you need something." "That's not fair," Max snapped. "You're family. Families help each other." My voice didn't tremble this time. "So tell me, when was the last time you helped me?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. That silent hesitation told me everything. Lena sighed dramatically. "Renata, you're overthinking this. You've always been generous. Why change now?" Her voice had that fake sweet coating she used whenever she wanted something expensive. "But this time, it didn't work." "Because you changed first," I said. "The day you told me only special people were invited to your wedding." The room froze. Max stared at his wife as if only now realizing how cruel that moment had been. Lena's face hardened. "You're still hung up on that?" "It was a misunderstanding." "No," I whispered. "It was the truth you didn't mean to say out loud." Their eyes sharpened, not with sadness. With calculation. Max lowered his voice. "Mom, if you're feeling overwhelmed or confused, we can help you. Let us handle your finances until you're feeling better." I almost laughed. There it was. Not even 24 hours after cutting the money, they were already positioning themselves to take control of everything. "Get out," I said calmly. "Mom." "Out. Now. Before I call the police." It was the first time in years I saw them both speechless. They left without another word, but the look on Lena's face told me she wasn't done. Not even close. That night, I discovered just how far they were willing to go, and it began with a knock at my door from a stranger who claimed he was only there to help. The day passed in uneasy silence after Max and Lena stormed out. I didn't know if I should feel relieved or frightened. A part of me expected them to return, demanding explanations, demanding money, demanding control. But instead of them, someone else came. It was nearly 7 p.m. when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I checked the peephole. A man in a gray suit stood on my porch, holding a slim black folder. He was mid-50s, neatly groomed, wearing a polite but unsettling smile. Something inside me tightened. I opened the door only halfway. "Good evening," the man said smoothly. "Mrs. Richter?" "My name is Mr. Fenton. I'm a consultant with the Family Assistance and Protection Bureau." The name sounded official, but too vague. Too conveniently vague. I didn't respond. He continued, "Your son and daughter-in-law contacted us with concerns regarding your recent behavioral changes." There it was. The next stage of their plan. My behavior? I asked, keeping my tone cool. "What behavior?" He flipped open his folder, pretending to read. According to their report, you have become unusually forgetful, financially impulsive, and emotionally unstable. They say you're isolating yourself from family and displaying signs of paranoia. I felt anger rise, not loud, but sharp and controlled. Those were their words, not mine. Their desperation was showing. Mr. Fenton, I said firmly, I have no idea who you are or why you think you can appear at my home unannounced. He clasped his hands together like a therapist attempting sympathy. Mrs. Richter, please understand, this is not an investigation. It's simply a wellness visit. A chance to ensure you're not being taken advantage of. I almost laughed at the irony. My own son was trying to paint me as the vulnerable one while trying to take my money. Did they also tell you, I said, that they broke into my house this morning using a key I gave them out of trust? His eyebrows twitched, the first crack in his polished demeanor. They mentioned concerns that you might have misplaced the key, he replied gently. Unbelievable. And did they tell you, I added, that they excluded me from their wedding while using my money to help pay for it? That rattled him. Slightly. Mrs. Richter, he said carefully, I understand you feel hurt. Not hurt, I corrected him. Awake. Something shifted in his expression. A realization that I was not the confused, fragile old woman he had been briefed to find. He cleared his throat. If you would allow me to step inside, we could discuss. No, I said sharply. He blinked. No, thank you. No entering my house. No questions. No evaluations. No conversations without my attorney present. His smile faltered. You're refusing assistance? I'm refusing manipulation disguised as assistance. For a moment, something cold flickered in his eyes, something that told me he was not just an innocent employee. He was part of Max and Lena's strategy, whether knowingly or not. Very well, he said finally. I'll note your refusal. But I must warn you, if concerning behavior continues, your family may request a court-ordered assessment. Let them, I replied, and shut the door firmly. My hands trembled, but my resolve didn't. I realized then that this wasn't just about money. They were preparing to paint me as incompetent. And that meant one thing. They were terrified I had finally stopped being their lifeline. But the real blow came the next morning, when I found out what they had already done behind my back at the bank. I barely slept that night. The encounter with Mr. Fenton replayed in my mind again and again, the smooth rehearsed voice, the official-sounding lies, the way he tried to slip into my house as if I were a confused patient instead of a woman defending her own life. One thing was clear. Max and Lena weren't done. By morning, I had decided to fix at least one thing that had been weighing on me, my financial vulnerability. I showered, dressed neatly, and drove straight to the bank. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't answer Lena's 3 missed calls or Max's single vague message, we need to talk. No. They had talked enough. The bank lobby was unusually quiet for a weekday. Mr. Klein, the branch manager who had known me for years, looked up from his desk and smiled warmly. Mrs. Richter, he said, gesturing for me to come in, I haven't seen you for a few weeks. Everything all right? I closed the office door behind me. Mr. Klein, I began, I need to stop all automatic transfers to my son and daughter-in-law. Immediately. Permanently. His eyebrows lifted. Of course, that's your right. But, may I ask if something happened? I hesitated, then realized he was one of the few people who had watched my account drain for years without judgment. They've been manipulating me, I admitted quietly. Trying to use my money to control me. Even, questioning my mental stability. Mr. Klein's expression darkened with concern. I am very sorry to hear that, Mrs. Richter. You have always been responsible with your finances. I've never seen anything that would even hint at incompetence. His words were a small comfort. But then he asked a question that made my heart jolt. Did you authorize your son to access your account last week? I froze. A thick heaviness spread through my chest. What do you mean? I whispered. Mr. Klein turned his computer screen slightly, not enough for me to see everything, but enough to show an entry. There was an inquiry for account access, a request to assist in management due to health concerns. It was submitted electronically under your name. My pulse throbbed in my ears. Health concerns? Access management? Submitted under my name? I gripped the edge of his desk. I never requested that. I didn't even know that was possible. Mr. Klein nodded slowly, his voice low. I thought so. That's why I declined the request. The signature didn't match yours. A mixture of relief and disgust washed over me. Max and Lena had tried to access my accounts even before sending Mr. Fenton. They were building their case long before I said my first no. What else did they do? I asked. He hesitated. They asked if it was possible to be notified of unusual withdrawals or changes. They said they were worried you might make rash decisions. Rash decisions. Like keeping my own money away from them. Something inside me hardened so much it felt like steel. Mr. Klein, I said firmly, I want to block them from everything. Every notification. Every access point. Every permission. And I want a new account they will never find. He nodded with respect. Of course. I'll personally handle it. The weight lifted from my shoulders as he processed paperwork, locked accounts, created new passwords, and uploaded security alerts that would notify me alone. When I walked out of the bank, I felt lighter, but also more aware. If they were willing to forge my name once, they would try again. And they wouldn't stop unless something, or someone, stopped them. I didn't know it yet, but while I was securing my finances, Max and Lena were inside my house, going through things they had no right to touch. When I arrived home from the bank, I noticed it immediately, a subtle wrongness in the air. The curtains were parted wider than I had left them, the rug in the hallway slightly crooked, and the faint smell of Lena's floral perfume clinging to the entryway. I hadn't imagined it. Someone had been inside. My stomach tightened as I stepped farther into the house. At first glance, nothing looked stolen or destroyed. But the small, intimate details, that's where the truth reveals itself. The drawer where I kept my important letters? Partly open. The cabinet where I stored my medical files? Unlatched. The living room cushions? Shifted, as if someone had sat and rummaged beneath them. It didn't feel like a burglary. It felt like a search. A controlled, targeted search. I walked slowly from room to room, every step stirring more dread. My bedroom door was slightly ajar. My jewelry box, usually neatly arranged in my routine, had been moved. One necklace was hanging halfway off its hook. I whispered to myself, they wouldn't. But they would. They absolutely would. I opened my closet. Papers, folders, and old tax documents were no longer stacked the way I kept them. Some had been flipped through and stuffed back haphazardly. They were digging for something. And then I saw it. On my nightstand, half hidden under a book, was a business card. Mr. Fenton's card. Placed deliberately. Almost like a signature. A message. I picked it up with shaking fingers. On the back, in faint pencil, someone had scribbled. Call us. Before things get complicated. I sank onto my bed, my breath catching. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. It was intimidation. I didn't hear the footsteps outside until they were almost at my door. A moment later, a car engine started, quietly, like someone trying not to draw attention. I rushed to the window and caught a glimpse of a silver sedan pulling away from the curb. It wasn't Max's car. It wasn't Lena's either. But I recognized the silhouette in the back seat. Lena. She turned her head slightly, as if checking whether I had noticed. So they had been here. Inside my home. Going through my life as if it belonged to them. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. A new message. From Max. Mom. We need to talk. You're making everything worse. I didn't reply. Another message came seconds later. Lena said you weren't home earlier. We left something important for you. Don't ignore it. Left something. The business card. I took a deep breath. This wasn't a family disagreement anymore. This was a coordinated effort. To gain access. To control me. To prove I was unwell. The realization wasn't just chilling, it was clarifying. I needed help. Real help. Not the kind they insisted on forcing into my life. I picked up the phone and dialed the number of the only person who had ever given me honest advice without expecting anything in return. My sister, Diana. She answered on the third ring. Renata? What's wrong? You sound scared. My voice cracked. I think Max and Lena are trying to take everything from me. There was a long silence. Then she exhaled sharply. Pack a bag, she said. I'm coming to get you. But even Diana didn't know the full truth yet. Not about the card. Not about the forged documents. Not about the man who claimed he was evaluating me. Not about the lies spreading behind my back. And certainly not about what I found next. Something that made my hands go cold. Inside my own mailbox was an official-looking letter, one that claimed I was no longer capable of managing my own affairs. After speaking with Diana, I felt a small pinch of relief, the kind that comes when you finally tell someone a secret you've been holding too tightly. But that relief didn't last long. As I stepped outside to wait for her, something caught my eye. My mailbox was slightly open, as if someone had been in a hurry or didn't want to be seen touching it. I frowned. Mail carriers never left it like that. I approached cautiously. Inside was only one envelope, thick and official-looking, with a raised seal on the corner. My name was printed beautifully across the front, too beautifully. Almost like someone wanted it to look legitimate at first glance. The sender line made my pulse quicken. Office of Adult Well-Being and Financial Oversight. Another official-sounding but incredibly vague agency. Just like the one Mr. Fenton claimed to represent. My throat tightened. I tore the envelope open. Inside was a letter printed on soft ivory paper. This notice serves to inform you that preliminary concerns have been raised regarding your financial judgment and personal safety. Due to behavioral reports and inconsistencies provided by close family members, a temporary review of your capacity to manage personal affairs may be initiated. Temporary review? Behavioral reports? Inconsistencies? Then I reached the bottom and froze. Primary reporting family members. Max Richter. Lena Richter. My own son. And the woman who had turned him against me piece by piece, inch by inch. My legs weakened, and I leaned against the mailbox to steady myself. This wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. It wasn't exaggerated concern. It wasn't a family argument. This was a documented attempt to strip me of authority over my own life. And worse, if this letter had been submitted as evidence to anyone, it meant they were preparing a legal pathway. A pathway to claim I was mentally unfit. A pathway to seize control of my accounts, my home, my decisions. I felt like the ground was shifting beneath me. My own son, the child I had nursed through fevers, defended against bullies, helped through heartbreaks, was now building a case to declare me incompetent. Anger spread through me, but it wasn't wild or reckless. It was sharp. Precise. Fueling a resolve I didn't know I still had. I took the letter inside, sat at the kitchen table, and read every line again. Something subtle caught my eye, a faint indentation near the bottom, like another sheet had been pressed over it during writing. My instincts prickled. I held the paper up to the light. There, barely visible, was a second impression, a signature. Not mine. Someone had forged it on another document, and this letter had been lying beneath that form when it was signed. Someone was practicing my signature. Someone in my house. Recently. I swallowed hard. I paced the room, my mind racing. What else did they forge? What else did they file? What's already in motion? My phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. A voicemail. I hesitated before playing it. Max's voice came through, low and trembling with fake sincerity. Mom. Mr. Fenton said you refused his help. He's worried. We all are. Please don't do anything irrational. We're just trying to protect you. Protect me. From myself. I gripped the counter to stay steady. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. You'll be getting some letters soon. Don't panic. It's just part of the process. Part of the process. They weren't guessing. They weren't planning. They were already executing. At that exact moment, Diana's car pulled into my driveway. She stepped out, took one look at my face, and rushed to me. Renata, what happened? I handed her the letter with shaking hands. Her eyes darkened as she read it. Oh God, they're trying to put you under a guardianship. Guardianship. A legal cage. My heart pounded as I whispered, we have to stop them, Diana. Before they take everything. She grabbed my arm. Then you need a lawyer. A real one. Today. But neither of us knew. Max and Lena were already one step ahead. Because that same afternoon, while Diana and I searched for an attorney, Max filed something in court that changed everything, and put me in immediate danger. Diana drove as if the road itself were an enemy. I sat in the passenger seat clutching the awful letter, the paper already wrinkled from the tight grip of my fear and anger. We didn't speak much. What was there to say? My own child had crossed a line there was no returning from. When we reached her home, she ushered me inside, locked the door, and immediately powered up her laptop. We're finding a lawyer, she said. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. I nodded, even though my body felt numb. She began typing, scrolling, evaluating names and firm descriptions with laser focus. I tried to help, but my thoughts were scattered. Every few minutes, I checked my phone like a frightened animal expecting another trap. There were missed calls. More messages from Max. More attempts to sound concerned instead of calculating. But then, a new notification appeared. Court alert, new filing in your name, emergency guardianship petition. I froze. Diana, I whispered. Read this. Read it now. She leaned over and gasped. No, this is impossible. They filed it already? How? I didn't answer. My knees buckled, and I collapsed into the nearest chair. They had done it. Not threatened to do it. Not drafted paperwork. Not talked to an agency. They had filed an emergency petition claiming I was mentally unfit. Diana clicked through the notification. Renata, it says there's a hearing scheduled for tomorrow morning. That's why they pushed it. They're trying to get it approved before you can defend yourself. I could barely breathe. A hearing tomorrow. A legal decision tomorrow. My freedom hanging in the balance tomorrow. I felt sick. Truly sick. Diana cupped my face. Listen to me. We will not let them do this. They need evidence. Real evidence. And they don't have any. But they were creating evidence. Fake evaluations. Forged signatures. Manipulative reports. They're not stupid, I said hollowly. They're desperate. And desperate people do reckless things. Diana squeezed my hand. Then we fight recklessness with preparation. I'm calling an attorney. She dialed the number of a local elder rights lawyer. While she spoke, I stared at the window, half expecting to see Lena's silver sedan parked somewhere nearby, watching, waiting, smirking. Every shadow felt suspicious. Every sound felt like a threat. After a long conversation, Diana hung up. He can see us this evening. We need to gather everything, bank statements, the letter, the business card, the voicemail. Every piece of evidence. I nodded, but my heart was racing. Renata, she said gently, we're going to stop them. I wanted to believe her. But what she didn't know, what I hadn't told her yet, was that Max and Lena had already taken one more step. Something darker. Something strategic. As Diana printed documents, I opened the online court filing for details. My hand shook as I scrolled. And then I saw it. A sworn statement. Submitted by Max, signed under penalty of perjury. My mother has exhibited episodes of delusion. She believes people are entering her home when they are not. She imagines threats where none exist. She has started accusing family members of theft and conspiracy. My vision blurred. He was rewriting reality. Twisting the truth. Turning my fear of their intrusion into evidence of delusion. Diana, my voice cracked. Look. She read the statement and slammed her palm against the table. He's lying. He's outright lying. But the court didn't know that. Not yet. We needed proof, undeniable proof, that I was telling the truth. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. A new notification. From my home security system. Motion detected in the living room. I stared at Diana, trembling. Someone's in my house. And when we opened the security footage, what we saw didn't just prove my innocence, it exposed the dangerous lengths Max and Lena were willing to go. My heart hammered against my ribs as I stared at the notification on my phone. Motion detected, living room, 4:17 p.m. But I hadn't been home since morning. And Diana had been with me the whole day. Someone was inside. Again. Open it, Diana said, her voice steady but her eyes wide with fear. Hands trembling, I tapped the notification. The live feed loaded slowly, pixel by pixel, until the image sharpened. 2 figures. One familiar, one terrifyingly familiar. Max. And Lena. Inside my living room. Again. Casually. Comfortably. As if they owned the place. Diana slapped a hand over her mouth. They didn't even try to hide it. The feed had no sound, but their movements told a very clear story. Lena was searching drawers, methodically, quickly, like someone following a checklist. Max was pacing the room, checking his phone, glancing toward the window as if watching for witnesses. Then he approached my writing desk. My personal space. He pulled out my notebook, the one where I kept my thoughts, reminders, appointments. Something deeply private. He flipped through it, stopping on a page. Even without sound, I could tell he was smirking. Lena hurried over, read something from the notebook, and nodded with a satisfied expression. Dear God, Diana whispered, they're looking for evidence to use against you. I felt numb. They're manufacturing evidence, Diana. We watched as Lena placed a few items into her handbag. I couldn't see what they were. My chest tightened. What was she taking? My documents? My medical prescriptions? My old journals? Anything could be twisted, taken out of context, used as proof that I was unstable. Then, on camera, they did something even worse. Max walked to my bedroom door, fully visible in the frame, and took out a pen from his pocket. A moment later, he held up a paper. I recognized it immediately. My signature. Or rather, a crude attempt at it. He practiced it. Right there in my house. On my furniture. On my paper. Under my roof. Then he pulled out a second sheet, likely a legal form or something he intended to submit later, and pressed it against the dresser, copying the forged signature onto it. Diana gasped. This is criminal. This is forgery caught on video. But it didn't end there. Lena looked straight into the living room camera, as if sensing it, and moved toward it. She reached up and angled it slightly upward, trying to point it at the ceiling. She didn't know I had two hidden cameras in the room, both recording from different angles. Even when one camera shifted, the second caught everything. I scrubbed through the footage until something made me freeze. Max knelt by my safe, the small lockbox I kept under the sofa, hidden, containing the last savings I had not touched. He entered the code. My code. Diana, I whispered, horrified. He knows the code. He opened the safe, took out a folder, scanned its contents, and whispered something to Lena. She reached into her purse and handed him a new sealed envelope. He placed it inside my safe. An envelope. A planted document. My breath caught like a punch to the chest. They're setting me up, I said, barely audible. That envelope, it's something they plan to find later. Then this footage is your salvation, Diana said fiercely. This proves everything, the break-in, the forgery, the planting of evidence. But before I could respond, a second notification popped up on my phone. Motion detected, kitchen, 4:22 p.m. And a shadow moved across the tiles. Someone else was with them. Not Max. Not Lena. A third figure. The third person in my house wasn't a stranger, it was someone who had been pretending to help me, and his presence changed everything. The second notification chilled me more than the first. Motion detected, kitchen, 4:22 p.m. I tapped the camera feed with trembling fingers. The image sharpened slowly, revealing only a blur of movement at first. A coat. A tall frame. A deliberate stride. Then the figure stepped into full view. My breath stopped. Mr. Fenton. The same man who stood at my doorstep pretending to protect me. The same man who tried to enter my home under the guise of a wellness check. Was now inside my kitchen alongside Max and Lena. Diana's voice cracked. Oh my God. He's working with them. No, it was worse. They were working for each other. The three of them stood together, speaking with an ease that only came from planning. Max handed Fenton the planted envelope he had placed in my safe minutes earlier. Fenton examined it like a mechanic inspecting a part. Then he nodded. Like he approved. What is that? Diana whispered. I didn't know. But whatever it wasn't meant to help me. We watched in horrified silence as Fenton walked around my kitchen, opening cabinets, touching surfaces, observing things with a clinical detachment, like he was preparing a report. One that would likely be used at the emergency hearing tomorrow. Diana, I whispered, he's collecting fake evidence. He's not an evaluator, she said. He's part of their plan. He's building the case they need. On the footage, Fenton pulled out a camera of his own and took photos, my medication bottles lined neatly on the shelf, my slightly messy kitchen counter, a stack of unopened mail. Look, Diana said, pointing at the screen. He's framing everything to make it look like you're neglecting yourself. My heart throbbed painfully. Then something even more disturbing happened. Lena walked to my refrigerator, opened it, and pulled out 2 containers, leftover soup and salad I had cooked earlier in the week. She removed the lids, dumped the contents into the sink, and left the empty containers on the counter. Fenton photographed the newly emptied fridge. A fridge that now looked barren. He's making it look like I'm not eating, I whispered, horrified. Diana balled her fists. This is criminal. This is organized fraud. But it didn't stop there. Max went to my sofa and threw a blanket onto the floor. Then he overturned the small plant stand beside it. Fenton photographed that too. They're staging the house, I said, barely breathing. They're creating a picture of someone unstable. The footage shifted again as the three of them gathered near the window. I zoomed in. Fenton handed Max a packet of papers. Max flipped through them, and I froze when I recognized the letterhead. The same letterhead from the letter in my mailbox. The same fake agency. The same fabricated authority. Lena pointed at something outside the window, and all three of them leaned in to look, probably checking if anyone was nearby. Then Fenton said something, we could read his lips. She won't fight this. Trust me. By tomorrow, she'll be under supervision. My entire body went cold. I wasn't their loved one. I was their project. Their target. Their payday. Suddenly, headlights flashed across Diana's window. A car pulling into my driveway, again. The footage captured it too. Max looked startled. Lena grabbed her bag. Fenton shoved the envelope into his coat. They rushed out of my house. Diana stood up. Renata, they're coming back. Right now. They don't know you saw the footage. My heart pounded at the realization. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. And they were coming, possibly to take me by force. As their car doors slammed outside, Diana pulled me away from the window, because what Max and Lena intended to do next was far more dangerous than filing paperwork. Diana grabbed my wrist the moment we heard the second car door slam outside her window. Renata, get away from the front, she whispered urgently. They can't see you here. But I was rooted to the floor, paralyzed by the truth I could no longer soften. My own son was coming to take me, not out of love, not out of concern, but out of strategy. Diana closed the curtain swiftly. We need to call the attorney. Right now. But before she could reach for the phone, there was a furious pounding on the door. Bang. 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 Max's voice, loud and authoritative, cut through the quiet neighborhood. Mom. I know you're inside. Open the door. Diana flinched. They're not supposed to be here. This is harassment. My blood ran cold as Lena's voice followed, slick with false sympathy. Renata, sweetie, this isn't safe. You're confused. Let us help you. Confused? No. For the first time, I saw everything clearly. Diana stepped in front of me protectively. Don't you dare open that door. But the pounding grew louder, angrier. Mom. Max shouted. If you don't open up, we'll have to call adult services. You're putting yourself in danger. Danger. The only danger was standing on the porch. Diana grabbed her phone. I'm calling the police. Breaking into your house wasn't enough? Now they're showing up here? I finally found my voice. Wait. Diana looked at me in disbelief. Wait? Renata, they'll try to force you out. Yes, I whispered. But I want them to keep talking. I want witnesses. I want it recorded. I picked up my own phone and quietly hit the record button. Then I walked, slowly, deliberately, to the door. Not to open it. To stand behind it. Lena's voice sharpened instantly, as if she sensed movement. Renata? If you're listening, please understand, this is for your own good. You're not thinking clearly. You've been imagining things. Seeing things that aren't real. I closed my eyes. Imagining things? I had footage. Proof. Hard evidence. They didn't know that yet. But they would. Max's voice joined hers, more forceful. Mom, the court will side with us. You're making this worse. Just come with us so we can talk privately. Diana whispered from behind me, "He sounds like he's taking a stray dog to the vet, not his own mother." I steadied myself. "Max," I called through the door, "go home." Silence. Then a furious exhale. "Mom. Open this door." "No. No," I said, and finally, it didn't tremble. "You don't know what we've done for you," he snapped. Diana raised her brows. "Oh, we do." Max kept going, louder, more frantic. "We've filed paperwork to protect you. Mr. Fenton already confirmed your condition. Tomorrow the court will." Lena cut him off sharply. "Max, stop." Too late. Every word was recorded. Every threat. Every slip of truth. They tried again, voices lower now, plotting whispers. "If the judge believes she's unsafe alone, we can take her tonight. She might not fight back if we go inside quickly. Fenton said they'll approve the emergency placement. Do it fast. Before she calls anyone." Diana's face drained of color. "They're planning to force you out of here." But suddenly, flashing blue lights reflected through the curtains. A police cruiser had pulled up behind their car. Lena gasped. "Max, we need to leave." "No," he hissed, "we're right there." The officers stepped out. "Sir? Ma'am? We've had a report of harassment and attempted forced entry." Max's bravado shattered instantly. The moment was deliciously silent. Diana gave me a small smile. "Your turn is coming." Because tomorrow's hearing would not go the way they expected. Not with the footage. Not with the recordings. Not with their lies exposed. And for the first time in weeks, I felt safe. But this battle wasn't over. Tomorrow, everything would explode in that courtroom. Courtroom twist. Because when we arrived in court the next morning, someone unexpected walked in, someone with the power to destroy their entire scheme in one blow. The next morning, Diana and I walked into the courthouse with a mix of fear and steely determination. I clutched a folder packed with everything, the footage of Max and Lena searching my home, the clip of Max forging my signature, the staged photos, the recordings of their threats, the planted envelope. Proof. Real proof. The kind that didn't care about lies or manipulation. The courtroom was quiet, but charged, like a storm waiting for its cue. Max and Lena were already inside. Max straightened his tie when he saw me, attempting confidence. Lena gave me that sad, patronizing smile, the kind you give a child who doesn't know what's good for them. But something was off. Sitting beside them was Mr. Fenton. In a suit even more polished than last time. His eyes followed me as I walked in, analyzing me, calculating his next move. Diana squeezed my hand. "Stay strong. They think they've already won." We took our seats. Judge Hammond entered, stern, sharp, no nonsense. She adjusted her glasses and looked directly at Max. "Mr. Richter, your emergency petition claims your mother is displaying signs of mental decline and is unable to manage her own affairs. This is a serious allegation." Max nodded solemnly, pretending to be a grieving saint. "Yes, Your Honor. We're only trying to protect her." Lena added softly, "She's been confused. Accusing innocent people. Forgetting things. Neglecting herself." Fenton chimed in like a rehearsed chorus. "I conducted an informal wellness visit. Her home was in a concerning state." He slid a stack of photographs forward, the staged ones from my kitchen and living room. Diana leaned over and whispered, "Just wait." The judge skimmed the images. "Mrs. Richter, these do show disorder." Lena tilted her head sympathetically. "We just want her safe." I stood slowly. My voice didn't shake. "Your Honor, those photographs were staged." A ripple passed through the courtroom. Max exhaled dramatically. Mom, please. I lifted a USB drive. I have security footage of them entering my house without permission. Of them dumping food, turning over furniture, and placing items to make my home look neglected. Fenton stiffened. For the first time, the confident mask cracked. Judge Hammond frowned. You have video evidence? Yes, I said firmly, and audio. Including Mr. Fenton collaborating with them. Diana handed the USB to the bailiff, who delivered it to the judge. As it played on the courtroom screen, the silence became suffocating. There was Lena dumping food. Max forging my signature. Fenton taking staged photos. The envelope being planted. The three of them discussing placement and getting it done quickly. Every lie. Every scheme. Exposed. The judge paused the video and stared at them with ice in her eyes. Mr. Fenton, she said sharply, approached the bench. He swallowed hard, visibly shaken, and stepped forward. Explain why you entered this woman's home without authorization. Fenton stammered. I believed it was necessary. You believed wrong, she snapped. This is fraudulent conduct. Manipulative. Possibly criminal. Lena burst into tears. Not real tears, desperate, panicked tears. Your Honor, we didn't mean to. Sit down, the judge ordered. Max tried to speak. It was all a misunderstanding. Counsel will advise you to remain silent, she cut him off. The judge turned to me. Mrs. Richter, based on the evidence presented, this court finds no grounds for guardianship. Further, the actions taken by your son, daughter-in-law, and this so-called evaluator will be forwarded to the district attorney for review. Diana squeezed my hand so tightly it hurt. I breathed deeply, freely, for the first time in months. The judge continued, Mrs. Richter, would you like a protective order? I whispered, yes. Max's face collapsed. And Lena looked at me like her entire world had just shattered. But I wasn't done. I stepped forward. Your Honor, I would like to request that they be barred from accessing my home, my accounts, and my medical information. Permanently. Granted. The sound of that word was the sweetest thing I had ever heard. Max tried one last time. Mom, please. But I walked past him without a single glance. For once, the power was mine. But just when I thought it was all over, the district attorney's office called, and what they had discovered about Mr. Fenton was far worse than anything I imagined. 3 days after the courtroom victory, I was sitting at Diana's dining table, sipping tea with hands that still trembled from everything that had happened. Peace felt unfamiliar, almost unreal, like stepping into a quiet room after surviving a storm. That's when my phone rang. Unknown number, district attorney's office. My heart lurched. I answered cautiously. This is Renata. A firm voice responded, Mrs. Richter, this is Deputy District Attorney Ward. We've reviewed the evidence submitted from your hearing, including the surveillance footage. I wanted to update you personally. Diana leaned forward, eyes wide. The attorney continued, we've identified something unexpected. Unexpected? What do you mean? I asked. He took a slow breath. The man who called himself Mr. Fenton isn't who he claimed to be. My stomach dropped. He's not an evaluator? No, Ward said. His credentials are fake. The agency he named doesn't exist. He's been involved in multiple cases where vulnerable individuals were targeted, usually by family members seeking control of assets. Multiple cases. A predator hiding behind polished suits and fabricated titles. The attorney went on, we believe your son and daughter-in-law hired him privately. They may have found him through someone who specializes in guardianship fraud. Guardianship fraud. The word tasted bitter. I sank back into the chair as he continued. And there's more. We traced the planted envelope from your safe. It contains a fabricated psychological assessment, forged signatures, false dates, incorrect licensing numbers. It was crafted to make you appear mentally compromised. Diana muttered, "Good God." I whispered, "So not one piece of it was real?" "None," Ward confirmed. "This wasn't a mistake or family confusion. It was a coordinated attempt to strip you of legal autonomy. We're preparing charges." I swallowed tightly. Against whom? Against all three individuals involved, Max Richter, Lena Richter, and the man posing as Mr. Fenton, whose real name is under investigation. I closed my eyes. My son. My own flesh and blood. Facing criminal charges because he tried to destroy me. "Mrs. Richter," Ward added gently, "you're not at fault. You protected yourself, you documented everything, and your actions prevented something far worse." But despite his reassurance, pain twisted inside me. Even after everything they had done, part of me had still held on to a shred of hope that Max was manipulated, pressured, confused. But this was deliberate. We ended the call, and I sat in silence. Diana placed her hand on mine. "You survived them. And now the law will handle the rest." I nodded, but tears gathered at the corners of my eyes. Not from fear this time. From grief. "I raised him," I said quietly. "I gave him everything. And still, he chose this." Diana squeezed my hand. "You didn't fail as a mother. He failed as a son." Those words broke something open inside me, not pain, but release. A letting go I didn't know I needed. The next week passed in a blur of paperwork, statements, and meetings with my attorney. Max tried calling twice, but I blocked the number. Lena sent messages filled with fake apologies. I ignored them all. For once, I was choosing myself. And slowly, something remarkable began to happen. I started sleeping without nightmares. I began cooking again. I smiled, genuinely, for the first time in months. It wasn't triumph. It was healing. One quiet afternoon, I placed a small potted plant near my living room window, the same place where Max once knocked over my stand to stage chaos. This time the plant symbolized something different. New beginnings. New boundaries. A life no longer controlled by guilt, manipulation, or fear. And as sunlight streamed through the window, warm on my face, I whispered to myself, "I matter." For the first time in years. I truly believed it.